The night air was still, the only sound the rhythmic ticking of the clock that echoed off the bare walls of our bedroom. I lay awake, my mind plagued by doubts and worries that seemed to suffocate the very breath from me. Beside me, Grace, my wife of 7 years, tossed restlessly in her sleep. It was unusual for her, always a sound sleeper, to be so agitated. It wasn't just the turning that caught my attention, it was the mumbling. Ethan, yes, her voice was a soft, longing murmur. The name, Ethan, sent a chill down my spine. I had never heard it before, and its unfamiliarity was like a splinter under my skin. Oh, Ethan. Her words trailed off into unintelligible whispers, her breaths growing heavier with each passing moment. Anger and confusion clouded my thoughts. Who was Ethan? My heart pounded painfully against my chest as I lay there, trying to make sense of it all. Was it just a dream? Could it be harmless, a fictional lover from a romantic book she was reading? But Grace wasn't one for novels, her tastes ran more to the dry, factual articles of daily news. The next day, I watched her, noting any changes in her behavior. She was the same Grace on the surface, meticulous, composed, with that graceful air that had first drawn me to her. However, there was a new guardedness in her eyes, a tension in the way she held her mouth when she thought I wasn't looking. My suspicion deepened. Driven by a gnawing need for answers, I decided to follow her one evening when she claimed to be meeting a friend for dinner. I trailed her car at a distance, heart sinking as she drove not to the bustling city centre as I expected, but turned into the driveway of a quaint, secluded cottage on the outskirts of town. Cautiously, I approached the house, my steps muffled by the thick, overgrown grass. Through a slightly ajar window, I heard laughter, her laughter, that unmistakable melody that had always been music to my ears, now a piercing siren of betrayal. Peering through the gap, the scene before me confirmed my worst fears. There she was, in the arms of a man, an unfamiliar face with a grin that matched his confident demeanor. They were wrapped in an embrace, his hands expertly playing her body like an instrument, a sight so intimate and raw that it felt like a physical blow to my chest. Rage surged through me, hot and blinding. I wanted to burst in, to confront them, to scream my pain and betrayal into their shocked faces. But I held back, a cold resolve settling over my heart. No, a scene wouldn't suffice for the betrayal of this magnitude. They had to understand the depth of the pain they caused. With a grim set to my jaw, I retreated into the shadows, my mind already crafting a meticulous plan of retribution. They would not get away with their deception so easily. They would understand the full extent of the havoc they'd wrought upon my life. And as I drove back home alone, the pieces of my revenge fell into place. This was just the beginning. I would dismantle their lives, piece by piece, just as they had unknowingly shattered mine. The morning after discovering Grace's betrayal, I woke with a grim determination. The house was silent, ominously so, as if it, too, awaited the unfolding drama with bated breath. Grace was still asleep, oblivious to the storm brewing just across from her in our bed. I slid out from under the covers, careful not to disturb her, and made my way to the kitchen. The plan was clear in my mind, each step crafted to inflict maximum impact. Today, I would begin by sowing seeds of doubt and watching the paranoia take root. I returned to our bedroom with 2 cups of coffee, setting hers on the bedside table with a gentle clink that stirred her awake. "Morning, love," I said, my voice steady despite the turmoil inside. Grace blinked away sleep, her gaze clearing as she smiled up at me. "Morning," she murmured, reaching for the coffee. "What's the occasion?" "Just thought we'd have breakfast in bed." "You seemed tired last night," I replied, watching her closely. She paused, a flicker of unease crossing her features. "Yeah, just couldn't sleep well, I guess." I nodded, feigning sympathy. "Was it about what you were mumbling in your sleep?" "Ethan, was it?" "Kept saying you wanted," I trailed off, planting the seed deliberately. Her hand froze, coffee halfway to her lips. "What are you talking about?" "Oh, it was probably just a dream," I said casually, but my eyes drilled into hers, searching for any crack in her facade. Grace recovered quickly, laughing it off. Must have been a dream. I don't even know any Ethan. Her laugh, however, didn't reach her eyes. The rest of the morning passed with strained normalcy. I left for work, but instead of heading to the office, I drove around town, gathering bits and pieces for my plan. A new SIM card for anonymous calls, a prepaid credit card for untraceable transactions, each item a tool in my arsenal for revenge. By the afternoon, I was ready for the next phase. I started with a text from an unknown number to Grace. "I know what you did. We need to talk." I sent it, imagining her shock as she read the words. Not long after, my phone buzzed. Grace's name lit up the screen. "Hey, did you get a weird message today?" Her voice was too casual. "No, why?" I played along. Someone sent me a strange text. Probably just a wrong number, she stumbled over her words. Strange how? Just, they said they know something about me. It's creepy. Hey, it does sound like a mistake. Don't think too much about it, I soothed, while mentally ticking off another box in my plan. As I hung up, I felt a mix of exhilaration and disgust. The game had begun, but with each play, I tore down the life we had built together. Yet, I couldn't stop, not now, not when I was so close to making them feel the depth of my betrayal. Tonight, I would escalate further. They both needed to feel the heat, to understand that their actions had consequences. And I, hidden behind the curtain of anonymity, would be the director of their downfall. The tension at home is palpable as I step through the door that evening, the weight of my secret actions pressing down on me like a physical burden. Grace greets me with a smile that doesn't quite reach her eyes, a clear sign she's still unsettled by the anonymous message from earlier. Rough day? I ask, setting down my briefcase and removing my coat, maintaining the facade of normalcy. Yeah, just some weird vibes today, she admits, fidgeting with the necklace I gave her on our last anniversary, a twisted irony that isn't lost on me. I nod sympathetically, wondering if she senses the trap closing around her. Want to talk about it? I probe, giving her an opening to confess, to perhaps start mending the rift between us, although I know it's far too late for either. She hesitates, then shakes her head. No, it's nothing. Just some silly message. Probably a wrong number like you said. I let the topic drop, not wanting to push her too hard too soon. The night progresses with an awkward dinner where we both dance around each other with careful words and forced laughs. After we clear the table, I excuse myself to make a call from our home office, dialing the number of Ethan, her lover, from the new SIM card. Hello? The voice on the other end is cautious, unfamiliar. Ethan, you need to stop seeing Grace. This is her husband. I know everything, I state firmly, skipping any pretense. There's a pause, and I can almost hear his brain working overtime. I think you have the wrong number, he finally responds, but his voice betrays a hint of panic. I don't. I saw you. If you care about her at all, you'll end it. Otherwise, I will make sure both of your lives are ruined, I threaten, the words tasting bitter in my mouth. You don't understand, he starts, but I cut him off. There's nothing to understand. Just stay away from my wife, I snap, hanging up before he can reply. The rush of confronting him directly is exhilarating yet terrifying. I know I'm crossing lines that can't be uncrossed, but driven by my need for retribution, I feel justified. I return to the living room where Grace is sitting, scrolling through her phone, likely messaging him, I think cynically. Who were you talking to? She asks, her voice casual but her eyes sharp with suspicion. Just work stuff, you know how it is, I reply, keeping my tone light. Actually, I was thinking, maybe we could go away for the weekend? Just the two of us, to reconnect. Her expression softens, hope flickering in her eyes. That sounds really nice, actually. Great, I'll plan something special for us, I say, a plan forming in my mind. This getaway could be the perfect setup for my next move, a way to expose and confront her directly with indisputable evidence. The thought of it fills me with a dark satisfaction. As we settle in for the night, the distance between us in bed feels like miles. I lie awake, plotting, planning, while she sleeps next to me, unaware of the storm that's about to break. The gears of revenge are in motion, and there's no stopping them now. My resolve is as hard as the diamond on the ring she still wears, a ring that has become a symbol of lies and betrayal. The drive to the secluded mountain cabin was quiet, the silence between us thick with unspoken words. Grace seemed pensive, likely mulling over the unexpected getaway I had planned. Little did she know, this trip was the culmination of my carefully orchestrated plan for revenge. As we arrived, the serene beauty of the wooded landscape was starkly juxtaposed against the storm brewing in my heart. "It's beautiful here," Grace remarked, a genuine smile touching her lips for the first time in days. "Yes, it's perfect for us," I replied, my voice steady despite the chaos inside me. We unpacked and settled in, and I could tell Grace was starting to relax, perhaps thinking this could be a new beginning. As we sat by the fire that evening, I excused myself to retrieve a bottle of wine from the car, her favorite, a calculated choice. When I returned, I found her on the phone, her voice hushed and anxious. Snapping the phone shut as she noticed me, her cheeks flushed with guilt. "Just checking in with my sister," she lied smoothly. I nodded, not letting on that I knew better. We sipped our wine in silence for a moment before I spoke up. "Grace, there's something we need to talk about." Her eyes widened slightly, sensing the seriousness in my tone. "What is it?" "It's about us, about honesty and trust," I began, my voice calm. "I know about Ethan." The color drained from her face, and she set her wine glass down with a clatter. I don't know what you're talking about," she stammered, but the fear in her eyes told me everything. "Ethan, the man you've been seeing," I continued, watching as she struggled to maintain her composure. "I saw you two together." Grace's face crumpled, and she started to cry, her sobs muffled by her hands. "I'm so sorry," she gasped between tears. "I never wanted to hurt you." But her apologies were too late, her betrayal too deep. "Sorry isn't enough, Grace. Not this time." I rose from my chair, moving to the other side of the room where I had earlier placed a small, unassuming briefcase. Opening it, I revealed a series of photographs and emails I had collected, irrefutable evidence of her affair. Grace gasped, her eyes darting between the damning proofs. "How did you?" "I needed to know the truth," I said coldly. "And now, I need you to leave." Her tears were relentless, but my decision was final. "Please, let me explain." "There's nothing to explain," I interrupted. "I want you gone by morning." The next morning, I watched from the window as she drove away, her car disappearing into the misty dawn. The cabin felt empty, but a weight had been lifted. My revenge was complete, but it brought no satisfaction, only a hollow victory. As I sat back down by the now cold fireplace, my phone buzzed. A message from an unknown number lit up the screen. "You don't know me, but I think we have something in common concerning Grace and Ethan." Confusion swept over me as I stared at the message. Despite everything, was it possible there was more to the story? A deeper deception that even I hadn't uncovered? The thought reignited a new flame of curiosity and suspicion within me, propelling me into a future where the past might not be as clear-cut as I had believed. The path of revenge, it seemed, was far from over.